discuss about the latest technology like Hyperledger Fabric. So, brief, I want to give brief introduction about me. What I do generally at the TCS is that I'm working in the COE Center of Excellence, where I take up the new technologies and try to deliver to the new employees joining, and will deploy them into the projects. So mostly we'll be taking up the RPA robotic
Excuse
process.
me, sir.
Yeah,
Sorry for interrupting. Your voice is a bit low. Can you please be?
1 second. Is it fine now?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah. So I work at the at Center of Excellence, mainly heading the RPA and blockchain practices. So my nature of work is like I'll be taking up the any new projects coming in, and I try to do the solutions and try to train the new joinees and deploy them into the projects. This is a brief role about me. I have few patents too in the blockchain and in the Python practices. Uh, I'll briefly share about the patents also. Then coming to today's agenda, let me share my screen. So just we'll go through the understanding to the wha- why the what are the blockchain use cases, and why we need to learn the blockchain, and introduction to the Hyperledger Fabric would be the agenda for today's. So I'll be briefly going through what are the prerequisites required for the Hyperledger Fabric and how to be installed, and what all necessary configuration is required to install Hyperledger Fabric. Then I'll discuss about the blockchain use cases, in where the blockchain use cases can be fit, and when coming to your projects, how you can develop the mini project or a major project. It's up to you. So I'll give you the brief use cases, uh, where exactly the blockchain can be useful. I will try to share the few abstracts so that you can follow with that. This would be the today's agenda. Mm, So according to the Upwork is something where freelancing community will be working up. So recently, it has showcased that the Upwork blockchain is the number one, which has been topped in getting the most contracts actually. Uh, you can register in Upwork, and if you are good at blockchain, then you are very likely to get the freelancing projects, which will be paying around $30 per hour minimum. So that's where the Upwork is. LinkedIn is something, as you all know, that where it's a social media platform for particularly looking at the employees' history and all. So it is also has given the top rank in the blockchain space. So not only these things, I mean Upwork and LinkedIn. Right now, I'm working in the blockchain space for the past 4.5 years. So still, I see there is a lot of demand in the blockchain space when coming to the hiring, and when developing the things. Particularly in freelancing, I'm very much occupied with the blockchain jobs actually. I don't get time literally to get, so I'm fully occupied. I'll be doing. So if you are getting trained in the blockchain, then it's a right time to earn good amount of money. So here is a graph where we can see how the blockchain revenue by region is projected till 2025, how each region is going to increase from the past 2016 to 2025. So it's a increasing, just like a steady increase, and it's just like a parabola. It's going to go. You can see here by the 2025 it would reach $20,000. Now we are in the 2020, so it's almost near to $7,500 dollars business we are doing right now. So it's in line with that, because when we started the 2016, we have only the 10 developers in my project, but now when when in my project we have deployed a couple of production environment, and we gained our uh, employee support in supporting staff. So pretty much it's 50% increase, I can say that. So day by day, blockchain jobs are getting increased. So when you learn the blockchain, not only you learn the blockchain, particularly in the Hyperledger Fabric, you learn the latest DevOps concepts like Docker and Docker Swarm. Even if you are interested, you can learn the Kubernetes. So these are the very, I mean, even you can search in a Google how much a Kubernetes developer gets paid, how much a Docker developer gets paid. So these are the DevOps profile. So while learning Hyperledger Fabric, even we get in touch with the Docker Swarm, and as we progress, we can see the what is Kubernetes. Uh, so learning the blockchain will help you in understanding the latest DevOps technologies too. I can guarantee that. These are some history. I mean, these are some artifacts taken from popular websites where we expect that uh, gradually the job rate will be increased. So when internet was invented, approximately in the 1980s, I think very few of them knows that what is a blockchain actually. What is internet? Gradually, by the end of 2000, India would see that good amount of India would be using the internet actually. So in 2000, majorly from 1996 to 2000, that is a period where internet to India has become a good boom. So it has taken 10 years to come to India at that time. But in blockchain space, it's not like that. India is going ahead apart from the top playing countries like US and Europe, because India is a very younger generation and a good upcoming engineering graduates. The higher releasing rate is there. So India is concentrating more on upcoming technologies like blockchain, cyber security, IoT. So these are the spaces where we can see good amount of jobs going to increase worldwide. Uh, so everything has to be automated. That's a vision for 2040. I can say that. Now you can see that out of every 14 jobs, only one blockchain developer is there. Uh, I can guarantee this because if one or other day I'll be getting some freelancing opportunity to do. To why don't you do this something? Why don't you create one POC kind of thing? So there is a good huge demand now. I think the second years or third years, it's a good starting phase where you are learning the latest technologies. By the completion of year, it would be at a decent space where a good number of projects will be deployed into the production, so that supporting staff will be increased. So that's where uh, you will be placing it if you learn the blockchain technology now. In 2017, it's a 94K to 145K. Usually, a blockchain architect gets paid. Now it is around 180K actually. In 2020, the blockchain architect is paying around 120, 180K. Even in India, it's like 25 lakhs per annum, 20 to 25 lakhs per annum. If a good blockchain architect is available, then he is getting paid around 20 to 25 lakhs per annum. Mm, So where exactly this blockchain consulting is working? You can take consulting companies, you can take product-based companies. Wherever there is a I mean, transactions involved in the multiple entities, we have the blockchain jobs. So everywhere they are experimenting the things and how they can infuse this blockchain technology in their present technology. So that's where this all Deloitte, KPMG, PwC, EY, everyone is working out how indeed they can they can use this blockchain technology in their existing technology. What problems it is going to solve? How exactly it is different from the traditional technologies they are having. This will be a brief salary, blockchain salary. So 63,000 is minimum. If it is a junior developer, he gets minimum of 6 lakhs per annum. So if you are fresher, if you are good at blockchain, then you can get around 6 lakhs per annum minimum. Even a startup pays you that much. So 134K is approximately 93 lakhs, 43 lakhs. It's when you are in US, you are getting that pay, but when you are in India, you get 6 lakhs per annum. If you go to Singapore, something like that, then this pay will be equal. Then So these are few facts about the blockchain, where exactly the blockchain is placed and how exactly they are working out. So this is some of the facts. I don't want to read it out. Even Reliance Jio, recently they are investing a lot on the next gen technologies, and uh, in fact they have deployed one blockchain network in giving the geo connection, geo fiber connections actually. So they are experimenting how, I mean, right now the billing is based on the number of I mean, if you pay 500 rupees you get 100 GB or something like that. But in future, once blockchain is fully utilized, fully implemented, in future the billing would be like every MB what you are using and how much you are going to pay. So according to your MB, the blockchain will be calculating how much you are going to pay. So it will be like meter reading, just like your electricity bill. So in the same way, Geo will be coming up, right? It is still in development phase, but down the line in 1 or 2 years, it's going to hit into the market. So that's where they are planning it up. Blockchain use cases. So I would like to discuss, because you know already the Ethereum and other blockchain. I mean, start with the blockchain. Ethereum is the easiest way, where we can write our smart contract and we can deploy into the public network and we can test it. So as you all know what is a blockchain and what Ethereum does it, I want to discuss directly the blockchain use cases, where you can frame your projects, mini project or major project you like. So blockchain and IoT. I'll come to this later because it involves a little bit of other things. I'll come to this later. Blockchain for medicine tracking. So when you develop any project, I mean, when you get an idea, so first you need to define your problem statement. So if you are taking the blockchain use case, what is the problem statement you are having, and what is the title you want to frame for that? So here the title is that tracking of medicine. It's a abstract. Generally, any project, and when we are taking any mini project or micro project, we like to do that. Even in MNCs, what we try to do that, what is the problem statement we are trying to solve, and why we are taking it up. If we are doing any POC for the client, we take the client statistics and how much transactions they are doing it. But when coming to the engineering colleges, they need to provide the existing present statistics which are coming into the project in the newspapers or in the magazines or in any site. They want to take any artifact, then they can do that. So this is a pretty much abstract we need to follow. I mean, particularly in the student phase, when we are doing any POC project, we need to do that. So first thing is that tracking of medicines over blockchain. What is this use case and how we are going to solve? So there, you need to mention your problem statement. So nowadays you can see that lot of adulteration of medicines is very vogue actually. So company will be releasing one medicine, but in the black market they will remanufacture with the same name and they release into the market. So there is a lot of adulteration of medicines into the market. So how you can overcome such kind of adulteration of medicines in the medicine platform actually. So that is a use case, that is a problem statement we are taking. So problem statement, it's something like supply chains of medicines are too complex to identify to determine the origin. So if everything is tracked on the blockchain, then you can showcase how when it has been manufactured, when it has been traveled from the manufacturer to the distributor one, when it has been transferred to the distributor one to distributor two, and distributor to the retailer one to the retailer two, and when it has reached to the customer consumer. So if you can see the track record of the medicine, for example, if you are buying the Dolo medicine, whether you want to know whether it's a genuine medicine which has been manufactured by the Cipla or not. So if you have the tracing mechanism in the blockchain, and you if the Cipla is giving you the tracing mechanism, if you scan some QR code on the strip, then you should be able to see from where it has been, from when, what is the date of manufacturer, and what is the expiry of the manufacturer. Everything you should be able to see on the when you scan the QR code. Such kind of applications are in development actually. Even you can try it, and you can see how exactly it works on. So if you can see, when the medicine has been manufactured, when the medicine has been transferred to the some Cipla to the Cipla distributor like Cloud India, someone who is a distributor of the Cipla, then some Cipla India to the Apollo, when it has been transferred to Apollo Medicine retailer shop, from retailer shop to when the consumer has been retrieved. So if you can see the tracking of the each and every record, and that too in the Cipla's website, then it shows its originality, and it the consumer feel that, yeah, I'm receiving the correct goods, and it has been manufactured at correct time. So such kind of tracking mechanisms can be built on the blockchain. So here are the few why you are taking that particular problem statement, and you need to support your idea why exactly this adulteration problem is there in the market, and how you are going to overcome this using the blockchain. So for that, you need to support with your statistics. So you need to give some statistics, how, what is the rate of adulteration of the medicine in the present world, and where exactly the artifacts has been showed. So World Health Organization is a one organization which is uh, so you need to take good artifacts from the newspapers, or WHO organization given press notes. You need to gather the artifacts supporting your idea or your problem statement, saying that this many drugs has been manufactured, I mean, malfunctioned or adulterated during this year, and we found this much, something like that. So you need to find the artifacts. Here we have taken the World Health Organization artifacts and Central Drug Standards Control Organization artifacts, saying that this many out of 10 dolo sheets, 2 dolo sheets are adulterated, something like that. So you need to get the artifacts, and you need to support ideas. Even you can provide your link, if it is from the magazine or website, you can provide the link saying that these are the various use cases, something like that. And stakeholders. So this is the problem statement, and this is the statistics. So you need to identify in your case study who will be the participants in the blockchain. So in your application, you who are the stakeholders getting involved in your application. So you need to identify them, and you need to mention them. There will be a manufacturer, there will be a distributor, where there will be a supplier, there will be partners. So something like that, who will be the stakeholders in your use case, you need to mention over in the stakeholders, under the stakeholders, so that it's easy to understand who will be the supplier, who will be the vendor. Suppliers and vendors are the same. So distributors and partners is something which we need to concentrate. Then existing solution, is there any existing solution for adulteration of I mean medicines? Is there any existing solution? You need to search it, and in which technology it has been built, and is there any drawbacks in the existing technology? You need to search for, and you need to give the artifact saying that, okay, existing solutions are so and so applications are available, but there are shortcomings in the so and so applications, because in that particular technology, this particular I mean, blockchain tracking is not widely proven, and something like that. You need to search for the existing solutions, and you need to differ from the existing solution what your advancement you are doing in your application. So you can take up the existing solutions, and you can do that. And shortcoming of existing system, just now I discussed what are the shortcomings of the existing system, and what is the proposed solution. So what you are proposing the solution for the existing adulteration of medicine. So you'll be making the blockchain based tracking system, where each and every record is immutable. So you can see that who has manufactured, who has been distributed, who is the logistic partner, everything can be tracked at full trace, something like that. So these are something lagging at the existing shortcoming system. You can take examples, and you can prove that this is my proposed solution. Then benefits of solution. Why? What are the benefits if you use your application or your system, and how it is solving the problem, and fitment of technology. Why blockchain technology you have used over here particular use case, and why exactly the blockchain is only the fit here. Why not any other technology like IoT or Python, whatever you take? Right? all other ERP applications, something like that. Why a blockchain is an exact fit for this particular use case you have given. Then what your smart contract is doing, how many, I mean, this use case is something related to the smart contract, I mean, blockchain, right? So you need to say something about your fitment of technology and smart contract, what smart contract is doing here and how smart contract is getting regulated, something like that. When coming, this is a tracking of medicine or blockchain. If you have any questions, let me know. So this is a way where we try to build our abstract and we try to build our blockchain application. Once we are fine with the abstract, then we'll go with the development actually. So in our course, I mean, if you are interested, and I will make you ready till the deployment of smart contracts on chain code and exposing them as API, and building the UI is something up to you. And I will show you with the sample HTML. If it is if the HTML, it's fine with you. So I will make you deploy your own Hyperledger Fabric network, how to declare the stakeholders, I mean, how to create organizations inside the Hyperledger Fabric, and how do we deploy the smart contracts in the Hyperledger Fabric network, and in what way we can expose them as APIs. So that we will cover it. Mm, This is one of the use case. Then we take other use case. E-voting system. So right now, this has become more popular. EVMs are something already used by the government now, but people going to the uh, polling station is a big headache. Recently, you can see the Hyderabad polling is almost about 35%. Out of 100%, only 35% people are willing to vote. They exercise their vote. So if you can build a system where they can exercise their vote from home also, then you don't see that 35% fall, and it makes in the election of right, I mean, right, right leader. Quickly, this it navigates to what is the blockchain of e-voting system, and here we try to support existing how they how different allegations made by the opposition parties and all, something like that. Here, YSR Congress Party. So these are the statistics and what are the drawbacks of EPM, and why there are drawbacks in EPM and how it has been tackled, something like that. The existing solution is EVM, and you are proposing the e-voting. So e-voting is something which you can access vote from your mobile too, something like that, using the but backend technology blockchain, where you can access only one time one vote, something like that. And what are the benefits of the solution, and what is the fitment of the technology, how blockchain is proven that it can't be tampered, it can't be used for the double spending, double voting kind of thing. Same person can't vote two times, something like that. How you are ensuring that double voting is not possible, and how you are using that the person is exercising the its own vote, and how you are verifying his identity. So everything you can give as a benefits of the solution, and just give a small demo so that it's a blockchain use case. And most of the countries now started following the e-voting system. Uh, Recently in Tamil Nadu also, in one of the elections they used it, and you can see that gradually in slowly small communities will start using the e-voting system, because mm, uh, the, due to the digitalization or globalization, you say. So most of the people will be traveling from one place to other place. If you can take even in a small community or in an apartment, if the everyone has to participate in particular election. It has been even voting rate is somewhere around 50 to 60% only. So in that sense, if everyone has to participate in the elections or in voting process, then this e-voting system would play a very huge role in the coming decade actually. So this is something where we can use e-voting in the blockchain. Then I go for next use case, blockchain for fake profile management. So fake profile management. So right now, whatever you see like LinkedIn and uh, existing Naukri, you upload your resume saying that I'm this many years of experience and so and so. So you get the duplicate certificates, whatever it is, and if you want to identify whether it is fake or not, is there any system present available in the market? So LinkedIn is trying to do bit of the fake profile management to identify if there are any regulations, but it's not up to the mark for identifying the fake profile management. But you can create one fake profile management just like a Naukri or LinkedIn as a social management where the profile is managed with authenticity. So once a user uploads the details, will at the background you'll be verifying it and give the authenticity saying that this profile is valid, something like that. You can give some credit mechanism and some reward mechanism, something like that for the fake profile management system. This is a very good use case, which has a many startups are trying to build a fake profile management system to curb the fake profile taking up the inefficient role. So this is a problem statement. Whatever I discussed, it's in English. And the statistics, how many? So you can say that for the BGC background check, TCS alone will spend for each candidate 2 lakhs per background check. Background check for a single candidate, whether he is a student or whether he is a previous employee, I mean experience profile. TCS will be spending 2 lakhs per verifying the particular candidate is correct not. If you can give the guarantee that this system is having the correct profiles with verified profiles, authentic profiles, then TCS is ready to pay 1 lakh for you instead of spending 2 lakhs in their own background system. TCS will be ready to pay 1 lakh for your tool to give them access so that they instantly check whether the particular profile is correct or not. So you can build such kind of use cases where it will hit in the market and where there is a time saving as a money saving. So now for the background check, it almost take 2 months for each and every case. For example, if I go and join in the TCS, they take my all credentials when I have been passed out from which university. So they send one background check profile guy, background check guy to the my university saying that whether he has passed from that particular university or not. Then my previous employer is Tech Mahindra. Then one more guy goes to Tech Mahindra and verifies that whether he has been worked with the Tech Mahindra for 3 years or not, something like that. So each and every minute step, minute profile management is done in the BGC. So for that, they have some expenditure allocated and they are doing it. So blockchain, if you can use a blockchain where the immutable records is maintained and it can be shared across the participant with the authenticity, then it's a perfect use case. So you can get the statistics. 75% of HR managers have thought a lie on a resume. So what you are mentioning in the resume is correct or not? I mean, 75% are fake, it seems. So this is statistics where. So here I put a click where you can see that press release. Just like that, you need to prepare that your abstract so that it is proof that I can't bluff saying that 75% is something like that, but it is in the press.career builders. So this is something a, it's not authentic, but you can I mean whatever it's in the print media, you can take it as a some authentic information, but you can check the various sites with which are very good at publishing the right information. Then a billionaire entrepreneur admitting lying about attending and graduating from, see, a billionaire, see, you can say that in the in the Three Idiots movie, the guy will be, I mean, I don't know, I'm not getting his name, but he'll be faking his profile with the other guy. So the same way, then he uses the same certificate. So how you can manage your profile, something like that. So this is something a billionaire entrepreneur admitting lying about attending and graduating from UCLA to obtain a mailroom job at talent agency. At that in 3 years movie, it doesn't require to obtain a job, but he wants the that certificate in order to get the contracts in their government. So the same way, a billionaire how it tries to buy the certificates and get the job for the sake of good reputation, something like that. That also can be curbed. then stakeholders, who will be stakeholders. So when defining any blockchain use cases, so the primary thing is that who all will be the participants in your application. So if there are multi parties, then only the blockchain use case fits. So if it is a single party, then there is no need of trustable records, or no need of authenticating the transaction. If there are multi parties involved in a transaction, then a blockchain use case gets into the fit. And in the way, you need to decide that how well you can manage your block. I mean, how well the records can transactions can be managed in your application. That is something to be targeted. Then existing solutions. Uh, there is a Vietnam based one project is building up, and some large company or organization. These are some artifacts. Recruit Tech is from the Vietnam based project, so you can take how they are building it up and what are the shortcomings of their existing solutions. So shortcomings of existing solution is third party agency cannot reliable for the proper conduct of the process of the background check. So if you are giving some third party agency to do the background check, so it's saying that it's not reliable and it's not properly projected in the recruit.tech. Whatever they build the system, it's not properly projected. So you propose a new solution saying that this is a blockchain powered database. Even third party agency also get the access. So third party agency is also onboarded onto your application with valid KYC, know your customer, and that third party will be uploading the relevant documents for whatever you suggest for the background check. So that is what your proposed solution you are trying to do for the existing shortcome of existing solutions. And what is the benefits of the solution? You can say time saving and money saving, and authentic transactions. You can say that benefits of solution and fitment of technology or how blockchain can be used. That's what. It's of blockchain for fake profile management. Blockchain for digital certificates of academic degrees. If the certificates are maintained in the digital certificates, if you are going for a USMS, they need some what is the transcripts. So getting a transcript, you need to go to university, you need to apply it, and they give it, and it's like a lot of manual work is involved, even paperwork is involved. So if you go for the digital certificates, then directly the university, instead of getting the transcript, they get directly a digital certificate from the university. If you pay some channel, directly your set of digital certificates can be downloaded and can be sent to the relevant university if you are going it. Such kind of digital certificates of academic degrees if maintained in the blockchain kind of sites, and if you onboard the universities, different universities onto your blockchain application, then that problem can be easily solved. I think most of you, I mean, if once you come to third year, then you will start digging how to apply for the transcripts, and that all story will be begin. So this is the use case of the digital certificates of the academic degrees, and who are the stakeholders, employer, company, university, even you can say different universities, so that if you are getting for MTech, then BTech certificates can be verified, other university BTech certificates can be verified. So existing solutions, any existing solutions are there for the particular blockchain for digital certificates of academic degrees, then you try to check that. And shortcomings of existing solution. Faking a paper-based education certificate is easy. Okay, faking a paper. So if it is a paper-based, so even currency is something they are duplicating, and they are it's in use actually. That's why demonetization is coming to avoid the fake currency in India, something like that. So faking a currency is possible. So faking certificate is pretty much possible. So that is the shortcomings of existing system. Regenerating a certificate by the university has lot of challenges. So if you want to regenerate a certificate, if you lost a certificate, if you want to get the new certificate, then there is a lot of tedious process has been seen. So if everything is digitalized, then they can easily get the e-certificate based on their authenticity and whatever it is there. Then proposed solution. So what are the proposed solution? What is your solution doing for digital degrees? You can um, You can give the what are the later what exactly you're trying to avoid in your proposed solution. How university can authenticate its university register something like that. So what are the benefits you are giving with your solution? You need to say that. Then benefits of solution. Obviously, time saving is a major constraint, and when it's easy process when everything is digitalized. Then fitment of technology. So blockchain have provenance, single source of truth, provenance. So same. So blockchain has a few principles. You can use the same principles as a fitment of technology, but altogether you need to identify the who are the stakeholders in particular use case, and what are the existing solutions in the particular stream, and what are the shortcomings of existing system, and what is the proposed solution. If we can do this, then it's very easy to develop a use case in the blockchain. So identifying the right use case is a something is beneficial in order to learn in particular technology. If you identify particular good use case where the multiple stakeholders are involved and how you are going to transaction between two entities, something like that, it's a good way of learning any technology. Then we take other use case, land registry or blockchain. So this is something very burning issue, and we see regularly that same land has been registered to multiple owners, though the rightful owner has been not signed on the particular certificate in particular land. So there are plenty of uh, disadvantage in the existing land record system, and so you need to identify the existing land management system, how they are going to transfer one land to the other people, and what are the certificates they are. What are the authenticity they are doing in the existing system, and how you are going to ensure how your smart contract or the chain code in your new system is going to work than rather than existing system. Even right now the block, even right now the land records also it's digitalized, but there are some few shortcomings for the existing records also. So how blockchain is going to play a role in the this land records and registry is one of the good use case. You can get plenty of artifact statistics and stakeholders and existing solutions. So existing solutions, we have plenty of existing solutions, and how they are different. What are shortcomings of existing systems? If you can identify what are the existing solutions, you can identify the what are the shortcomings of the existing solution. What is the proposed solution? How the blockchain technology is going to help the proposed solution, and benefits of the solution. So here the language trade, the major use case is something here in the blockchain there won't be any admin. Whereas in coming to the traditional technologies, if you're using Oracle database or Postgres database, whatever the database, where admin have some specific permissions where he can delete some record, where he can update some records. When coming to the blockchain, there is no admin concept. So without there is no admin concept, no one, everyone is equal in the blockchain. So everyone has equal access. If someone tries to edit, then someone is trying to edit. Everyone knows that. So that's the beautifulness of blockchain. So that's a major fit over in the land records and registry. So everything is digitalized. So everything is tracked, but there is an underlying database where it is controlled by the admin. If admin, so for example, there is a 10 crore property where admin is given some good amount of ransom money, in term for updating the records of one name to other name, it can be done. So there is a possibility of malfunction of the records, but when coming to the blockchain, whether if you give to the admin 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, he can't do anything. If he tries to update also, it says that this admin has been updated with so and so details, and you can see updated information and when he has done what he has done. So it can be easily tracked, and it can easily notified who has done what. So that's where this technology is very huge play when coming to the government organized entity. Government organized platforms, particularly land registry. Mm, mm, mm. I think, right. So smart contract, what smart contract we have written, just you can take it up. Patent right over blockchain. So patents. So nowadays, uh, so patent filing has been I mean, if you file a patent, it has to be a unique entity. So unique entity in the sense the same idea is not being proposed earlier by anyone. If it is proposed and what advancement you are using for the existing patent, something like that, you need to identify it. So if you are maintaining in the blockchain, so for example, you know the operating system. I mean, Windows operating system was built by the Bill Gates. But earlier, when I mean Steve Jobs was but to be in the real side, even Steve Jobs has worked in the Windows in developing the Windows operating system with the Bill Gates. But before coming to the, I mean, Bill Gates is the first person who declared publicly saying that he filed a patent saying that this is the Windows operating system. So it went to the Bill Gates. But in fact, Steve Jobs is a person who has contributed much to the Windows operating system, but he didn't get the patent for it. So that's where filing a patent makes very important. So if it is tracked, I mean, if it is if Steve Jobs has come up saying that have this is my idea, this is our lines of my code, and this is something which I have been contributed, something like that. If there is a concrete proof with the Steve Jobs, then we would have taken some action over the Windows, but it's not happened. It's a story. How far it is true, how far it is false. I have read some books. I have come to know that. But if patent rights are tracked on the blockchain, then you can see that at what particular amount of time a two persons can have the same idea, but who has filed the patent in the application first will give the priority, something like that. So if it is maintained over the blockchain platform, then we can track who has come first and what is his idea, and you can easily check whether existing idea is present in the system or not. So before filing before filing a patent, a user can check whether this idea is already present in the patent application or not. If idea is already present in the patent application, then he need not apply the patent. Now what is happening? People try to declare a patent by going to the, I mean, by filling the relevant by getting the relevant information, and he prepares the proper documentation. And by the time he goes to the patent authority says that, oh, it's already filed by someone, it's rejected, something like that. But if you have the application readily available, what all patents available inside the particular authority, then you can easily go and check that, okay, this already patent is there. So what advancement you can do to the existing patent, and what else if it is, or you can drop your idea of that particular patent, something like that. So it saves the time and money of the intellectuals, where they try to invent more time in filing the patent. So particularly the time can be very much time can be very much I mean saved. This is something a problem statement, the same thing statement what I have discussed so far, and the statistics, how Isaac Newton and the few statistics, how they have filed their patents and how they got the patent right, something like that, and who will be the stakeholders for this particular patent: IP holder, intellectual property claimer, and judiciary for the IP and IP provider. So when you are filing a patent, this all are, so IP or intellectual property. When I write the patent, I'm the holder. I'm trying to write a paper, but claimer is something. It would be like one big organization taking all the entities, and he tries to claim on behalf of the inventor. For example, if I file a patent, I will be the intellectual property holder. Intellectual property claimer is something my organization will be there, and judiciary for IP is something my organization is having the judiciary client lawyers, where they try to document it legally so that no one can challenge in future. So judiciary for IP is something mandatory. So that is also considered judicial for IP for the particular stakeholder, and IP provider. IP provider is something India has the one IP authority, US has one IP authority, China has one IP authority. So different IP providers are there. If you are claiming your IP in India, it need not be challenged in the US. So whenever we are filing the patents, so we make sure that we file in India, we file in the US, we file in the Europe, and we file in the China too. So that the IP belongs to you, whether in India, whether it in US, or whether it in China, wherever it is. So that IP belongs to you. So IP providers might be multiple. So these are the stakeholders involved and existing solutions. We can take the existing IP tracking tracking tools, and there is one source. I can click on this. Focus in Tech. So they are building a token. This is existing solution also in the blockchain. You try to, you can go through it, what exactly they are doing and how exactly they are building their system, and what are the shortcomings of the existing system. You can identify by reading the white paper, and you can propose a little bit of change to this existing tool to like propose existing proposed solution, and what are the benefits of your solution then over this existing solution. Then the fitment of technology, how the particular blockchain technology is fit for this particular thing, uh, is something where we take it up. If you want more examples, I can go through it. So everywhere you can understand. See here, the format remains same. What is the problem statement? What are the statistics supporting your problem statement? And who are the stakeholders involved in particular transaction of this particular problem statement? And what are the existing solutions of your idea or problem statement? And how your what are the shortcomings of the existing systems? And what is the proposed solution, what solution you are proposing, and what is are the benefits of solution of your proposed solutions, and how the blockchain technology is used. So everywhere it remains the same, immutability or authenticity, whatever we take, it remains the same. But you need to make sure that you are presenting your idea in line with the whatever you are taking up. So there are plenty of examples. Peer-to-peer lending or blockchain. So peer-to-peer lending or blockchain. Now you will be lending to bank or something like that. So if peer-to-peer lending is, I mean, pretty much possible, but if peer-to-peer lending over blockchain is introduced, and how far it is going to be success without banks. Now there is now if you want any loan, then you will be lending from the banks. But if you want to lend from the banks, you need to have a good CIBIL score. But I don't have good CIBIL score, but still I require money. I need to find out who is a person who is ready to give me the loan. So in that cases, this peer-to-peer lending or blockchain is something makes useful. So the CIBIL rating is something you don't have. With high rate of interest, you can take it with supporting documents, applying something like that. So you can work on this peer-to-peer lending or blockchain. How blockchain is useful. I'll go to the docs. So in the traditional system, people require intermediaries like loan officer, banks, underwriter, and loan processor to build the trust or build or for background checks. That adds up the extra layers of complexity, and adding middlemen and regulations to the process of lending leads to the high fees and consumes a lot of time. In some cases, submitting collateral are also challenged. So here the problem statement is different. Here the problem statement is that whenever you want to apply the loan, there is some documentation charges with the bank, and you try to do the collateral with that particular bank, saying that this is my property. I would like to put as a collateral for this much amount, so that I can take the amount. So I can get the loan amount sanctioned. So there is a pretty much loan process is available in order to sanction a particular loan to the people. So here you are trying to avoid that particular manual process, and you want to digitalize it, and digitalize it over the blockchain. So how these existing peer-to-peer platforms are working? So there are many peer-to-peer platforms are existing. You can see that. I mean, Oxycash. There are a lot of existing platforms also available where interest rate can see the statistics how these are playing a role. So Mudra Bank, these all are something which wants to do the peer-to-peer lending. These are the statistics how peer-to-peer lending has been increased in the recent ages and recent trends. You can see in Argentina, Madagascar, particularly in the South American states, it has been good increase in the peer-to-peer lending. So with these statistics, you can say that India also may lead to the peer-to-peer lending over coming decade, something like that. And who will the stake on borrowers and lenders? I have a person who requires money, person who is ready to give the money. So who are the stakeholders? Existing solutions. So what are the existing solutions? Michael Newman. Lend it. So lend it is there is a decentralized lend owe it. Lend owe it. So the first P2P lending application platform, where they designed one application, one app, in the particular in the US. Okay, and they have good. So you can go through the existing peer-to-peer lending process and how they are trying to solve the puzzle. I mean problem, how they are going to digitalize it, and how much loan, how quickly they can process the loan, how quickly they can send the money, something like that. So you can go through the existing white papers and come up with the shortcomings of existing systems. For example, here shortcomings of existing systems is the in-house credit team of the P2P firm does the risk assessment of each borrower, which involves cost, time, and effort, and affect the customers at the end. So risk assessment is something they are showcasing it as a shortcome over in the existing system. And other is the involvement and availability of collaterals in the process are not always possible for some sectors of customers like students. So students doesn't have the collaterals, they don't own something by own right, they don't have the properties on their name, they don't have anything to put as a collateral. So in that case, how they can get some money in order to get some education loan kind of thing. So how that process can be handled and how you want to checking in your application credit check, something you can go through the existing systems, and proposed solution is something building a blockchain based network of borrowers and lenders from all over the world through a platform where borrowers can deal with lenders directly, and the instances of the deal can be recorded over the blockchain. Here the platform will act as a monitoring intermediary. So here your platform, see now they will be having the proof when you are doing something. If I'm borrowing some $100, but $100 has been given by so and so entity, it will be acting as a proof in the digital ledger. So you can challenge in the court saying that I have transferred him $100, but he hasn't transferred me back, saying that with so and so terms and conditions in the existing legal entities. So such kind of mechanism can be built for the peer-to-peer lending over the blockchain. So benefits of the solution. So here you can write some what are the benefits of the solution and fitment of the technology. So there are plenty of examples I have given. Just I'll go through the heading so that can if I will go through the headings. If you want me to take particular use case, I can take it out. Crime evidence over blockchain. So there are pretty much recent cases where evidences has been I mean tampered or something like that or changed. There are pretty much newses in the particularly in the Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, like Aisha case. The lot of evidence has been totally changed. So the accused was released. So if you are able to maintain the crime evidence over the blockchain, then no one can delete it and no one can tamper it. So it remains as an identity or artifact for generation. So such kind of evidences can be stored. If you store crime evidence over blockchain, then most of the cases will be solved without. I mean, the true justice can be given for the accused or criminals. Then blockchain for dairy farm product supply chain. So here in the supply chain. In the dairy farm product supply chain, here there are multiple entities involved. One is they do the procurement from the village farmers, where they get the individual 1 liter, 2 liter milk, and the 2 liter, 1 liter, 2 liter milk will be transferred to the dairy chilling center kind of thing, and the dairy chilling center will be transferred to the main company. So there are multiple entities involved in the dairy farm product supply chain. You need to understand what are the real stakeholders you need to involve. Just go through it. What are all the stakeholders involved? Is that right? Right, yes. Here, stakeholders are farmers, cooperatives, processors, and supermarkets. So, how you are going to get the milk from the farmers, how you are going to create the packets in the cooperatives and processors, and how the processors are supplying to supermarkets, and how end consumer are taking the milk. So now you can see that many news that adulteration of milk is something they can create milk using urea also, something like that. So if you can track each and every entity where your milk has been come and which farm your milk has been come in, then you can track it. And for the beneficial of dairy industry also, how profitable it can be seen. I mean, they operate in very margin space actually, margin amount for, when coming to the dairy market. You can take that example and you can create a proposal existing any solutions are there, or what is your solution and how it can be implemented in the particular use case. Then government transferring funds or blockchain. Now you can see Raitu Bandhu. Each farmer is getting 4,000 per acre. So if funds and the right now there is no audit is being conducted, but once the government changes, then CAG will be conducting the audit for the government transferring funds. So at that time we may find out this many amount of crores has been misjudged or misused kind of thing. So there are so many government transferring funds like you can say MGM, Manrega, how the government funds distributed in Manrega. So that's like employability fund. So people try to register, just go for attendance and they get their daily wages scheme, something like that. So if government transferring funds over blockchain with some artifacts can be included in transferring funds or blockchain, then it makes sense and it makes useful for audit also. Instant audit can be done, something like that, and no one is admin basically. So these are the primary use cases when government transferring funds over the blockchain. Here you can see the stakeholders involved in the government transferring funds. So fund issuing authority, fund receiving department, and the beneficiaries. Everything who are the stakeholders you can track, and what are the transactions are to be performed in the government transferring funds. What is the problem statement and how audit is getting. So you can identify it and shortcomings, and you can provide a solution. Then blockchain for sharing sports performance data securely. So blockchain for sharing sports performance. Now we have the uh, you feel that so getting into Indian cricket team is something you need to bribe, something like that. So sharing sports performance. So if you can, if there is an system there from for each individual sports person, whatever is track records can be maintained, and based on the track records, if we can shortlist it to the Indian national team kind of thing, then we can get the huge, I mean, good cream for the selection of Indian team, actually Indian national team, not only Indian national team, any national team. If each sports performance of each candidate can be taken into account, then it creates a good amount of data, and so based on some bot will declare that these are the top players that can be selected for the national something like that. So such kind of applications also can be built. So this is something hatke thoda. If you want to think in different, then this is something where you can get it. So if you want to see who all the stakeholders involved here, just focus here. You can see that sports clubs, sponsors and partners of the match, and sport clubs fan. So if you are interested in the sports and you know the sports hierarchy, how it is going to deal, then it's a right use case to be taken. Blockchain for tokenizing the aspiring athletes. Even you can tokenize. So the once you achieve this many records, now I think you'll be paying, you will be playing this Dream 11 kind of thing. So where you choose your team, and once your team wins, you get some amount. If your team is in the top 20 or top 20. So instead of that, you are tokenizing for aspiring athletes. So for districts, this many tokens will be credited if you come first. For state level, if you perform second, you get this many rewards tokens, something like that. So overall, based on the tokens, it can be listed who is the top athletes can be selected for the nation. So the same previous case study, but it's just sharing the performance. But here, with adding the token is something extra level where athletes also gets benefited with that token. Blockchain for leasing cars. Nowadays, it has become popular. Now, in India is also uh, coming. I mean, India previously it was used to be only in the foreign where leasing cars is very much. I mean, cheap actually. It's easy to use the leasing cars, but in India it has started now, and down the 2 or 3 years you can see that good amount of cars in the leasing space. Right now there are Milan, not Milan, my something laser, Zoom cars. So there are pretty leasing cars. Then here you can track. So leasing cars is something they will be equipped with IoT devices. So if you are leasing a car, if the leased car is traveling more than 100 speed, then automatically he will get penalized, something like that, instantly. So if he is getting penalized, he is to show the artifact saying that this much at this particular amount of time you have to show that you have crossed this limit, something like that. At that particular amount of time, it takes the screenshot of that machine and it tries to store it, and some proofs they want to show to the customer saying that you have crossed this much speed limit, something like that. So you can take such kind of use cases with IoT with the blockchain. Then it makes very useful. Blockchain for leasing cars. Blockchain for migration and refugee. So this is something related to the neighboring countries. So, for example, if you take the Bangladesh like country, their economy is very low, and people try to come to India. Even from Nepal, also people try to come to India to get here good amount of pay actually. So 1 rupee in India is equal to 2 rupees in Nepal actually. So there is a currency inflation, everything is seen. So most of the people will try to jump from the borders from the neighboring countries to the which are rich countries, so that they can enjoy earn with their livelihood. So if you can maintain the migration and refugees who are coming like this, then you can give the track the entity and how he, when he is traveling and how he is traveling. If some kind of mechanism is there, then it is easily to identify who has come from where and who has done what. So this is the one use case. There is a recent news actually based on recent news. Someone has taken this use case. Just I will go through this. All the step. You can see the Norwegian Refugee Council and American border. So at the Brazil, people try to jump. Mexico, yeah, from Mexico, people try to move to the America. There is some migrants issue. That issue is taken, and they have created one proposed solution on the blockchain for migration and refugee. Blockchain for sports fans incentivization. The same thing. Blockchain for tracking carbon emission. So carbon emission. This is something which is in news. There was a recent international conference for sustainability of environment in the Geneva, I suppose, Geneva or Copenhagen. Copenhagen, yeah. So they have taken decision that the use of CFS carbon fluorocarbon should be restricted. So each company shouldn't uh, be encountered more than such kind of CFC release actually. So how much carbon consumption you are making it, you are restricting it. Something a blockchain tracking carbon emission system is built. So it is, I mean, basically it is for all the humans actually how to reduce the carbon emission. So carbon emission is something when you travel by a vehicle, it emits the carbon monoxide. So carbon monoxide emission of you are using some vehicle. So instead of using the vehicle, if you go by the bus, so 100 people traveling in one single bus, so they reduces the carbon emission. So each person how effectively can decrease the carbon emission, trying to prove to the people saying that this much carbon emission is can be possible if majority of the people using the public transport system, and they want to show some artifacts. So for that they are making a blockchain system as a where they can show that if one person is maintaining the public, if one person is using public transport for each and every purpose, then how much is saving the carbon emission, and compared to the person who is using his own private transport for his own travel, something like that. So such kind of tools are coming into the market because after Copenhagen meeting, so there might be the chances that if you are using the public transport, you will be benefited more than if you are using the private transport. There might be coming the income tax relaxation rules also, something like that. So there are people are trying to build on blockchain tracking for carbon emission. So here stakeholders are citizens who is using the green energy, something like that. Ministry of Environment, companies selling raw fuels, companies consuming raw fuels. So these are the entities, how it can be controlled, something like that. He has built some system. There is something very DM Labs who is tokenizing carbon credits. The same way, there is a shortcomings in the existing solution. He tried to create the proposed solution and benefits of the solution. Blockchain for agricultural traceability. So now the organic farming has come in. Organic farming and organic products are providing a wide, providing a good market price actually. So if organic players wants to prove their identity, saying that they are really organic, then they can use the IoT devices at the agricultural fields, and they can notify at real time, saying that at what particular amount of time this particular plant has taken, how much nutrients like nitrogen, carbon, phosphorus, how much it has been taken, inhibited, or something like that. So when at what time it has been harvested, at what time it has been moved to the supply chain, market, or cold storages from is it cold storage product or it's not cold storage product. So if you can track agricultural products, then it's a good use case. So here we come to the end of the blockchain use cases. So I have taken good amount of time of the blockchain use cases because it's the place where I want each one of you to take one of the use case and try to develop an application and get hands on a particular technology, particularly in Hyperledger Fabric. If you have any questions in the particular blockchain use cases, I am ready to take it up and I'm ready to explain in detail. But if you don't have any questions in the blockchain use cases, then I'll jump into the Hyperledger Fabric. Exactly. Yeah. You can post in the chat.
Yes, my request, if anyone has any kind of a queries, you can unmute and you can ask your question, ma'am.
So if if you don't understand any use case, if you are interested in particular use case, something like that, or if you want me to elaborate particular use case, then I will elaborate it. I have gone at very high speed actually, since I want to cover many use cases. That's if you want me to take in detail, I can take it up.
Actually, not a big question, but can I ask one thing?
Can you
So,
repeat?
yeah, not a big question, but I have small doubt.
Yeah, please.
There are cases where blockchain was used for illegal trading,
Okay.
and we have mentioned a lot of applications in almost each and every field.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there any risk for our That sort of question I'm having because uh, uh, in blockchain, if illegal trading is possible without knowing to anyone, there is a chance. I mean, there is a risk for our private data too. So, what can you comment on this?
Okay, there was a illegal trading has been reported somewhere. So this illegal trading is something. Uh, so as soon as now people don't understand the blockchain technology and they try to save their private keys with the with the exchanges actually. So you don't have the real ownership of your private key, rather than exchanges will have the real ownership of the private key. So if you are maintaining your own private key rather than the exchanges maintaining the private key, then you don't see this false trading or something like that. And when coming to the illegal trading, so this illegal trading is something you come up with an idea saying that I will implement this. Uh, but for example, if you take if for example if you take this product and you can take Kakushin. So they are releasing a token saying that by the end of 2021, we will be making our system ready where you can. I mean, this is our idea, and you can bet on us. Something like that. They are releasing the token. So if this Kakushin is not just release the white paper, if they are not developing any technology, and instead they are whitelisting in the ICO website, ICO, instead they are whitelisting and they are taking the money of people and they are shut down in the company, then there are fears actually. So here no one is regulated over here. ICO is something based on is a white paper and based on the team. It's altogether a bet on some startup. So illegal trading is something. Uh, if in particular country, if the particular ICO is can't be challenged in a court, then it's called illegal. Right now in India, it's not legal, it's not illegal. Still in India, don't have the crypto laws so far uh, uh, given by the government. I think in 2021 they will come up with some good amount of tax. Uh, Good amount of tax if you are investing on the crypto, then you will be paying 10% or 20% tax you should pay if you are investing on crypto. It's a risk to the individual, something like that. They come up with the laws. But as far as India, it's so far it's not legal, it's not illegal. We don't have any specific rules to stop trading with the Bitcoin or to start trading with the Bitcoin.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, then I will proceed
Good
further.
afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. Sure.
So I have a doubt in transaction use case.
Transactions use case, huh?
Yes, sir. Like like in blockchain, when we implement a transaction, it starts from a point and gets into a network,
Mm-hmm.
and where the block is verified and reaches to the point at the end point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is there any way to make this transaction encrypted,
Mm-hmm.
like end to end? That's my doubt.
So it's already encrypted, Suhas. If you are to using any private network, I mean, if you are using a public network like Ethereum, already Ethereum node where you are trying to use, I mean, where if you are trying to use an Ethereum node, it's already encrypted. Whatever you are transferring information, so it is a HTTPS enabled protocol. So from the source entity, when you are sending any information, it tries to encrypt with the certificate, and at the destination entity, it tries to decrypt it. So altogether, it's already encrypted and it's sending it. If you want to enforce more encryption at your side also, you can do it. You can encrypt and you can send the transaction, but your smart contract should be able to decrypt it inside the virtual machine. I mean, inside the node. So you can do that. Defaultly, it is encrypted. If you want to add more encryption also, it's possible. You can add at your side, and at the smart contract also you can add the decryption technique. Hope I answered.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So if it is not encrypted, then this all cyber security laws comes in and they say that this is a bullshit technology. So it's they defaultly handle that. Yeah.
So I have a general question.
Yeah.
Like coming to blockchain technology, it is very complex. Like for one transaction, it takes a lot of time.
Right.
So it uses lot of current,
Right.
electricity.
Right.
So right now the global issue is pollution, like as we all know.
Yeah.
So as this technology uses, like there are some stats, like it uses approximately annually 77.78 terawatt of current.
Right.
So much of current is getting involved in using in this technology. So how can we defend and take this technology forward? Like seeing the current scenario of a global issue, which is main of global warming
Right.
and all other stuff.
Right. 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 So I agree with you. So that's a disadvantage with the blockchain. So far we discussed about the advantages. We have come up with the disadvantages of the blockchain. So people are acting on it. Right now, Ethereum is working on the proof of work consensus mechanism where the electricity power is very much high because each node is trying to participate. But in future, down the line, they are trying to transfer to the proof of stake where only the few people will be trying to mine it. So now whatever you are projecting some 7.1 tera electricity, whatever it's getting wasted for mining of the block, that will be gradually decreased to the one almost one fifth or one half of the speed can be reduced. Half of the, I mean, if it is 77, it can bring back to the 10 if they use the proof of stake consensus mechanism. So still they are working on it. How best we can use the consensus mechanism to make this, I mean, mining as a fruitful, but taking into consideration that they need to solve the Byzantine fault tolerant problem too. So they are working on it. Still, it is evolving. Uh, it's a disadvantage, I can say. That's what I can say. That as of now, still people are coming with a new blockchain framework, saying that it takes this much amount of time, and we need to wait for the 100%. I mean, good blockchain framework. As of now, Ethereum is something which is good in the public network where it uses a good amount. But down the line, there may come up with a new blockchain platform where it uses a less amount of electricity in mining the transaction, something like that. So altogether, for to in order to avoid the centralized authority, the mining is the solution. But for mining, what all the alternate can be seen, the people are working on it, and they are coming up with new solutions. You can see that there are many blockchain platforms has been evolved after the Ethereum, like EOS, Stellar, Neurochain. Even bot can decide some what other nodes are up, and only that nodes can bind the particular transaction. So they are coming up with ideas to reduce this uh, I mean, electricity power or whatever you mentioned, right, disadvantages. So they are working on it. There is a neuro chain coming up where bot will decide that out of eligible nodes, who is the right eligible node to mine the transaction, so that only one computer, one node will be working to mine the transaction. So bot will decide ahead who has to mine the transaction, something like that. So people are working on it first. Hope I answered.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
So I have a doubt in voting. So blockchain in voting.
Yeah, please.
Blockchain is used to store the data of a particular voter person.
Mhm.
And what if he uses his personal mobile and somehow it gets hacked and the data gets deviated or unwanted data is entered and voting becomes illegal?
Okay, okay. So that mechanisms is yet to evolve. That's where our election commission is also worried. So people doesn't know how to vote, how to do the e-transaction. So now, as of now, e-Aadhaar is coming into the picture, where you can generate a virtual Aadhaar and virtual ID for particular amount of time, and that virtual Aadhaar gets expired after that 10 minutes of time. So while doing the e-voting, so for each individual user, they can generate a virtual vote. I mean, virtual with Aadhaar card, they can generate virtual password. With that virtual password, they should be able to vote either from their mobile, either from any device actually. So only that in that prescribed amount of time, they should be able to vote that. I hope I answered that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Good, good. Can I move ahead or still some questions? Yeah. So we'll go to the Hyperledger Fabric. So you need not worry. What is Hyperledger Fabric? Sir, it's difficult. No, nothing like that. I'll take from the very basic level. So the one thing one thing I want from you is that if you don't understand any concept, please raise your hand or please raise your voice saying that I didn't understand, so that I take some time to explain on it. So I want everyone to understand each and every concept clearly and write their own use case into it. So in that way, it would be very fruitful. I mean, until and unless you raise your voice, I can't guess at what area you are facing the problem. So I want you to raise your questions whenever you feel that particular topic is trouble. We use many technologies in Hyperledger Fabric, but you need not fear of it. I will try to explain what is useful and at what level you need to learn and what is sufficient to learn that at this stage. So Hyperledger Fabric is something which has been primarily developed by the IBM, and it has been launched with the help of the Linux Foundation. So Linux Foundation is something a freeware community, freeware or open source community where altogether different companies developers will try to support for the Linux Foundation. So initially, IBM has developed the block Hyperledger Fabric. As they want to make it popular, they have dedicated this to the Linux Foundation. Once it is dedicated to Linux Foundation, then the developer from the Accenture, developer from the PCS, developer from the PwC, developer from the Rapid contributed to the Hyperledger Fabric framework. And it's the first decentralized distributed network, private network, which has launched the production grade into the market after the advent of the Ethereum private public blockchain. So Hyperledger Fabric is widely used in the private distributed ledger networks. So we are taking up the Hyperledger Fabric. So after the advent of the Hyperledger Fabric, there are many other distributed ledger technologies comes in like Sawtooth, Iroha. There are different Hyperledger, different blockchain platforms has come in. Each has its own use case, but Hyperledger Fabric, since it has advent in the first in the market and it has gained its own importance in the market, and the people who understand Hyperledger Fabric, then it's easy to understand all other Hyperledger frameworks because it has in the similar structure or similar frameworks or technologies they are using it. So pretty much if you are comfortable with the Hyperledger Fabric and Ethereum, then you can consider as a blockchain developer. So we are taking up the Hyperledger Fabric for our building, for the next level of blockchain journey. Uh, its Fabric is highly modular and configurable. So as of now, uh, you can plug it and you can, I mean, different. There are multiple nodes involved in the Hyperledger Fabric, and each node has its own role to play. And yeah, that role to play, whatever the role to play, is a modular and configurable. Modular and configurable in the sense, if you want to plug in other database, you can plug in it, like configurable. If you want to divide something out of it, I mean, for each small entity also you want to make it as a microservice, then it's called a modular. For example, if you want to write a chain code, if you want to write a chain code in some isolated environment, it's called a modular. So you are dividing the large application into small chunks so that it makes a modular to understand. So if understand chain code first, understanding the network first, understanding the deploying the first separately makes more relevant than understanding a big machine, something like that. So it's a modular and configurable. With here, the smart contracts are called as a chain code, and here, and it doesn't have the any native currency and no mining. Now, one of my friend discussed, we have the mining problem, and it has 77.3 megawatts per day each miner, I mean, whole mining process is taking up. So it's a threat to the carbon emission, something like that. So here in Hyperledger Fabric, since it is a private network, it doesn't have any mining kind of thing. So, but here the role of the nodes is the consensus is taken in a different format. So how the consensus will be played in Hyperledger Fabric, I'll showcase. But here we don't have the mining, we don't have that wastage of power or whatever public blockchain networks has. So this reduces the risk or attack vectors and better throughput. So when there is no mining, obviously the transaction throughput will be increased in the private networks. So in a Hyperledger Fabric, based on the consensus mechanism, the transaction throughput gets increased. So there are a few transaction mechanisms. So far, I've seen 1500 transactions per second in Hyperledger Fabric framework, but yet to be increased or developed by the Hyperledger Fabric, since you can estimate that right now Mastercard transactions or Visa card transactions are about 6,000 transactions per second. So if you want to hit the real financial market, then the by blockchain network should be able to achieve the throughput around 10,000 transactions per second, so that even Mastercard transactions or Visa card transactions can also be involved. Then Hyperledger Fabric also offers availability. Okay. So here, if you want to compare with the Hyperledger Fabric with the public blockchains, here we have the concept called channels. So channel is something, uh, if you remember that in the public blockchain networks like Ethereum, we have seen mainnet, testnet like Ropsten, Rigebi, Gorilla. There are different networks for the Ethereum. So each Ropsten is one channel, each Gorilla is one channel, mainnet is one channel. So in Hyperledger Fabric, you can define in one single network multiple channels. You can mention it so that you can divide information in the particular channels. For example, when you take the WhatsApp as an example, in the WhatsApp we create the channels. So in one channel, only lecturers will be the part of that group. In one channel, all the students and class teacher or class representative will be a part of that group, and all class representatives will be in one channel. So in one network, there are different channels. WhatsApp as a network, a one person is part of multiple channels. The similar concept in the Hyperledger Fabric, we have the channel concept. Channel is something which divides a network. So what happens in one channel cannot be seen in the other channel until and unless the person is part of both the channels. The same applies here. The same applies in the WhatsApp channel also. Same applies in the Hyperledger Fabric channel also. So channel will be adding as an extra layer of abstraction of information between the participants who will be the part of that particular channel. So you can so as we start programming the Hyperledger Fabric, we'll be mostly hearing about what is a channel, how to define a channel, how to create a channel, how to join a channel. Same like what we do in the WhatsApp group, how to create a channel, how to join the participants in the channel. In the similar way, we have some commands in the Hyperledger Fabric. We do that. Then comes the smart contracts. So channel is something which abstracts the information. Smart contract is something where regulations or some group of conditions are mentioned in the smart contracts. So whatever the logic you write in the smart contract. So smart contract is something which is capable, you know.
Can I ask a doubt?
Yeah, please.
Sir, does each channel behaves as a private blockchain?
Mm, you can take that as of now. It's a
Okay.
private blockchain. You can take that as of now.
Okay.
I will explain in detail, but if I elaborate that, then you'll get diverged. But you can take it as a private channel or private. We have the private data collection tool. That's a different story. But as of now, you can take as a private channel. Each channel has a private channel in between a particular network.
Okay, sir.
Then comes the smart contracts. Smart contracts here the Hyperledger fabric is defined as a chain code. Here in Ethereum we call it smart contract, but in Hyperledger fabric we call them as a chain code. So chain code is something where we write our logic. Smart contract logic, whatever we write, here we write it. So what are the conditions we need to define that we write in the smart contract. For example, we take an example, a car manufacturing company Maruti is there. So car manufacturing company Maruti, and so in order to manufacture a Maruti car, it has to have the tires, it has to have the wheels, it has to have its own music system. So different entities are involved in making the complete product. So different products are required to make the finished product. So for in order to get the tires, it has to get the contract with the MRF or JK tire, whatever the tire they like to use, MRF truck. Not for the audio music system, they need to link up with the Sony or Bosch, whatever the music systems which are available. So in order to make the car complete finished product, so one car company manufacturing company has so many contracts with the other companies. For example, car manufacturing company is maintaining the network, so it requires the car tires for its manufacture. So they are making a contract with the MRF company saying that we require this many tires of this grade and this many quantity for each quarter, something like that. So there will be a blanket purchase order between the MRF company and Maruti company saying that this is going to be the deal, and I want to get these projects and something like that. So right now these two systems, car manufacturing company Maruti and MRF manufacturing company, both are maintaining their own ERP systems and they both have their own applications. So they Maruti releases purchase order saying that we want 100 tires to the MRF. MRF says accept the purchase order and sends it back to the once tires are ready, they send to the Maruti. There the deal gets closed. But right now they don't have the visibility. I mean real time visibility that to the MRF. So Maruti don't have visibility to the MRF as a that many stock already, or it requires more time in getting the product. Sometimes what happens is that although this in the purchase order, the tires get delivered at very late, so that car manufacturing will be getting delayed. This miscommunication or communication lagging issues are very frequent in between the major entities. So for that, there are many people who will be communicating each other in handling these particular solutions. So in order to make the agreement itself to take a decision. So if a particular MRF is manufacturing the particular amount of tires, as soon as they manufacture the tires, they want to let the Maruti to know that this many tires are being manufactured at this particular amount of time. This is readily available, and you can take it whatever it's shipped, everything is tracked, and everything is known at same amount of time. I mean, at same particular amount of time. Then it would be very easy to plan the things actually. For Maruti to plan the things, how many cars they can release, and for MRF also, it's easy to know that how many tires that Maruti company requires. So this kind of agreements now it's not it's a paper made, and there is no digital smart contracts. Digital smart contracts are being used in order to track where exactly it is. But with the Hyperledger Fabric kind of network, they can create one channel between the MRF and Maruti, saying that okay, this is our channel where we try to show our inventory and your inventory, purchase orders, whatever we want, we can share in between this channel. So we are ready to do that. So and for this particular in that particular channel, people both MRF entity and Maruti entity tries to maintain the smart contract, saying that I will release purchase order and I want a purchase order immediately to be accepted within 1 hour. If you are not accepting the purchase order within 1 hour, then I will reroute this smart contract, this purchase order to some other entity, something like that. Or I will you need to pay 10% less amount if you are not accepting the purchase order, something like that. So there are some regulations or conditions can be written in the smart contract in that particular channel. So that smart contract, whatever the regulations and conditions we are writing in that agreement or the code, it is called as a chain code in the Hyperledger Fabric. So whatever the regulations or conditions we write between the two entities to make the decision or to take the decision by the digital entity or contract. So contract itself, if something goes wrong by the rules and regulations, smart contract itself says that he is requested this much this at particular time, but the destination entity is not ready to accept it. So we are declaring this as a null and void, something like that. So the smart contract itself will take the decision. So there won't be any discrepancy saying that they can't blame each other, saying that your purchase order has been raised very late in the night, so we are unable to do that. So that kind of reasoning or uh, additional bargaining won't be there. So smart contract itself will take the decision according to the rules and conditions for payment by the both the CEOs or decision taking entities between the two entities. That's where this chain code or smart contracts play the role. If you have any questions on this. Okay. So chain code. So chain code can be implemented in three languages so far. Three SDKs has been given by the Hyperledger Fabric. One is a Golang SDK, second is a Java SDK, third is a Node.js SDK. Even Python can also be written, but Python SDK is still in development. I can say that Python SDK is not full-fledged being released. As of now, three SDKs are available: Go SDK, Java SDK, Node.js SDK. So default by default. Hyperledger Fabric has been developed on the Go framework. They use a Go language framework and they develop this Hyperledger Fabric framework. So whenever you are choosing any platform, you better to write the programming in a natively developed. So particularly when you take the smart contracts or chain code, we need to write in a natively developed so that you get the plenty of developer community examples. It's easy for the developer to make the smart contracts if you use a natively programming development. Right now, Hyperledger Fabric has been developed natively in Golang, so it's better to choose the chain code to be written in the Golang. So Ethereum is something EVM, Ethereum Virtual Machine is developed in the Solidity environment. So Solidity is a better place to write smart contract. We can write the smart contract in the JavaScript using the Web3 also, but it's better to write in the Solidity because the usage of keywords and the transaction fee will get reduced when we write the smart contract in the JavaScript. I mean, smart contract in the Solidity rather than using other languages to write a smart contract. So here it's something we will be having three SDKs and we use a Go SDK for writing a smart contracts, and for exposing the APIs we use a Node.js because Node.js is pretty much easy to develop a lightweight server or Express server very easily for developing the REST API. Yeah, case studies. Writing a REST API in Go language, it takes bit amount of time, and in the Java also, REST API we need to use a Spring Boot kind of thing to make it as a middleware server. So if you're comfortable in the Java, you can use a Spring Boot. It's not if you are comfortable with the JavaScript, it's good to use the Node.js JavaScript. Because Node.js, why Node.js is becoming popular is that the browser also there is a JavaScript. So most of the UI technologies are developed in the Angular is a JavaScript. I mean, of course, it is TypeScript, but it can understand JavaScript too. Angular, React.js, Vue.js. So whichever platforms you take, they are JavaScript. So if you understand JavaScript, it's better to learn one language and become a good full stack developer is very easy. So using the middleware also Node.js makes you the Java makes use of the same JavaScript in the middleware also. So that's where we use them. Most cases change code only with the whole state database component of the ledger. So here in Hyperledger Fabric, we have the two kind of databases. One is a whole state, another is a transaction log. So I will discuss more detail about whole state and transaction log when we go in detail once we start programming. So as of now, you can remember that there are two kind of databases. One is the whole state and one is the transaction log for the Hyperledger Fabric where database is stored. Then comes the consensus. Any questions on the smart contract? Okay. So consensus. So consensus is something primarily it has to be the Byzantine fault tolerant. I mean Byzantine fault tolerant. So if you know that how this mining process has been proof of work consensus come in, it has solved the Byzantine fault. It is a Byzantine fault tolerant, so it's able to uh, get the transaction atomic. You can say that. So there is no double spending in any transaction using this particular consensus. Whether you use proof of work or other consensus mechanism, you can't double spend with the same amount. So what is double spending? I think you might have covered in the Ethereum, but for the sake of the here consensus, the Hyperledger Fabric use the practical Byzantine fault tolerant mechanism. What is this practical Byzantine fault tolerant? So practical Byzantine fault tolerant is yet no node in the Hyperledger Fabric as the full authority to mine the transaction. All nodes are not equal in Hyperledger Fabric. If any node gets down, if any node is not active, then particular transaction won't happen. So each node has some responsibility in Hyperledger Fabric network in order to make the consensus practical Byzantine fault tolerant. Uh, that's about the consensus. I will discuss much more detail when I take the architecture of the Hyperledger Fabric, how the consensus problem is solved, and how the consensus practical Byzantine fault tolerant is been established in the Hyperledger Fabric network. Then comes the ledger. So ledger is something, it's a database. You can take it as a database where you have the key value pairs. Um, so for each channel, there will be one ledger. For each channel, there will be one ledger. In a Hyperledger Fabric, there can be many channels, but many channels can have the each channel out of many channels. Each channel will have its own ledger. Each ledger will have its own whole state and transaction log. Whole state and transaction log. What is the whole state and what is the transaction log? What is the whole state is something which user tries to see the existing state, and the transaction log is something the blockchain log. So transaction log is something which shows who has done at what time. For example, I own 100 rupees in my account. I transfer 10 rupees to one of my friend uh, Aravind. So 100 minus 10, 90. From then I transfer 10 rupees to one of my friends Sushma. Then my balance becomes a 90 minus 10, 80. So my transaction log will record my history of all the transactions, saying that Rohit a particular amount of time he has transferred 10 rupees to the Aravind, and at particular amount of time he has transferred 10 rupees to the Sushma, so that now his balance is 80 rupees. This all records is maintained by the transaction log. Whereas in the world state, what is the balance of the Rohit? If I ask, the world state gives you 80 rupees directly. What is the what is the world state? What is the amount of the Rohit does have? He has 80 rupees, but it doesn't show the history. History in the sense, initially he has 80 rupees, 10 rupees has been transferred to Aravind, 10 rupees has been transferred to Sushma. That is not shown in the world state. World state shows only the present current state, what he has now. So what he has now, what the current balance he has, that particular balance will be showcased in the world state. So this is this is a major difference between the world state and the transaction log. So for the world state, we have the 1 DB, one database, and the transaction log, we have one database. If something is deleted in the world state, that can be seen in the transaction log saying that this has been deleted by so and so guy at particular amount of time. That particular state has been deleted, but the transaction log exists uh, in the transaction log database, and every participant will have the copy of the ledger they belong to. So for example, if particular we take an example of my Maruti and MRF, right? The Maruti and MRF will have the copy of the ledger in that particular channel. So for example, they created a tire channel between the Maruti and MRF. The tire channel will be having one ledger at what particular, whatever the transactions come into this ledger will be showcased, will be both the entities will be able to see the copies whatever they have. I discussed world state just now, transaction log also just now, then the level DB and cost DB. So this level DB is something very light database. Basically, it maintains the key value pairs. Even Ethereum, inside Ethereum virtual machine also maintains a level database, level DB. So level DB is very lightweight database where it maintains the key value pairs. Even in the Hyperledger Fabric is also transaction log is maintained in the level DB where it maintains the key value pairs of at what particular amount of time this particular transaction happens. Default that database. So level DB is something that the database which will be storing the key value pairs. Particularly here we use for the transaction log. When coming to the world state, it's optional for us. Either we can use the level DB or cost DB. So level DB is very lightweight. So if you want to write some complex queries, then it takes a lot of time to query the records. So for querying the complex records or for reporting purposes, if for the world state we use the cost DB. So cost DB is something it is very rich where we can write some beautiful queries very easily to get the data between all the relevant documents or tables, whatever you say. COSDB is very flexible. So for COSDB, we use the world state. For transaction log, it's default level DB. As of now, it's defaultly using the level DB. Even Ethereum has also the database inside the Ethereum virtual machine that also uses a level DB. Any questions on this?
No, sir.
So this is a brief about how the blockchain is there. I think you might be knowing already this because you have seen Ethereum and you have done some smart contracts. Just for the sake of any new guys, so blockchain will have the this big one is whatever I'm showcasing is blockchain. So this all the network is a blockchain, and each one is block as it is represented in the blue color. Blue color, it's a block. P0, P1, B2 is a block numbers. H0, H1 is a block headers. T0, T1 is a block data. T1, T2, T3, T4 is a transaction. Each block may contain many transactions in particular block. M0, M1 is a block metadata. H2 is chained to H1. So it's something like chaining it. So blockchain is widely developed if you can understand the linked list and one a network protocol and hashing that makes the blockchain. So here linked list is something that chaining the blocks. So chaining the blocks, whole transactions making as one hash is called block header hash, something like that. So in order to identify this particular block, that is hashing. and how this syncing of the blockchain happens between the nodes, one node to other node. There might be TCP protocols involved, one node to other node. There might be involving TCP protocols. Here in Ethereum, it uses inter-process communication. In Hyperledger Fabric, it uses the gRPC communication. It uses gRPC. Google remote procedure call or gossip, sorry, gossip remote procedure call. gRPC in Hyperledger Fabric, it uses gossip remote procedure call. So yeah, with these three, they have built the blockchain. I've explained this. Is also done. Block header, block data, block method. That's it. I think it's 3:30. In the next week, I'll take through the prerequisites of Hyperledger Fabric. Actually, what are the prerequisites? What you know that understanding the prerequisites, how we are using the curl, how we are going to use Git, what is Docker, how what is Docker Compose, what is Docker Community Edition, and the Go programming language, how to install the Go programming language, and Node, and Python is required for orchestrating, and text editor. Eh, this all will take up the next week, how to install it and do that. For now, I think I take a break. Let me know if you have any questions.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions you can ask, ma'am? Any questions?
If there are no, I'll call it Friday. Okay then, thank you. If you have any questions and anything, you can post to the Vinay madam, or I think you can give my number too. You can post over there too. Fine with me. For now, I can call it for a day. Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks for
Thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge with us. Sir, request Anvita to vote of thanks.
Any feedbacks, guys? The session was
Good
any
good
feedback?
afternoon, everyone. I'm Venkat from second year AI department, and I'm glad to attend this session on Hyperledger, and I'm glad to express my opinions before you, sir. It was an excellent session on blockchain applications, and especially I like the way in which Mr. Rohit Sita, sir, has given a solution for some problems like the usage of blockchain in e-voting and machine tracking, sir. Thank you for giving us an opportunity, sir.
yeah, pleasure with pleasure. Thank
Other
you.
feedbacks?
I'm Sai Kiran from CSC second year. Rohit sir, it's an amazing session. Before, I didn't know what are the applications of blockchain, but now I came to know different and enormous number of applications of blockchain technology and how Hyperledger works and what are the basics of Hyperledger. And I came to know that. I'm glad to attend your session. Thank you.
Thank you, friend.
Anything else, guys? Shall I end it? Okay. I would like to express my gratitude to Mr. Rohit Singh for enlightening us with your wisdom, sir, on blockchain and its applications, and also a brief idea on Hyperledger concepts. We owe you a special vote of thanks for gracing the session. I thank Ms. Vinesti ma'am for giving me this opportunity, and I also thank all of you who have sincerely attended this session to make it a grand success. Thank you, one and all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
First, I need your support for the upcoming years also, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma. Just let me take an attendance. So number 1. Yes, roll number 1 present. Yes, ma. Juniors committee members can leave, ma. Committee members can leave. Thank you, ma. Thank you for your
Yes, ma'am.
support.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. So roll number 1 present, 3 present, 4 present, 8 present. 10 present, 12 present, 20 present, 22 present, 26 present, 29 present, 36. Just don't leave, ma. I need to talk with you.